Hi, I'm Anthony from Sydney Backyard Veggies. We're in the middle of July now, so although the weather's still a bit cold, now is the time for me to start my spring seedlings. So today's video, I'm going to be starting off both my eggplants and my capsicum seedlings, and I'm going to go through how I start them off in my seed trays and do a few other things in the patch as well. So what I'm going to do first is actually fill up my seed trays with my seed raising mix. I generally use just a generic seed raising mix from your local nursery, but the key is what I try to look for is one with a lot less bark. The lower the bark content, if you can just see that, the lower the bark content, the better I find. It actually just works quite well. I don't actually make my seed raising mix, I just use the bag variety and it works quite well for me. So what I'm going to be doing at the moment is just filling up these trays, loosely filled up with the seed raising mix, and then from there I'll go along and give them a first water before I plant my seeds. And now at this stage now I'm ready to start planting my seeds. What I'm going to do now is plant one tray of eggplant seedlings, seeds, and one tray of capsicum, and I'll put one seed per tray. The seeds that I have are quite fresh, so I'm pretty confident with the germination, but if you're not, you can always put two seeds per cell and remove the weaker one of the two. So I'm going to come through, plant my seeds, and then get ready to cover them with my vermiculite. For today's spring planting, what I am going to be planting is a round of capsicums and a round of eggplant. These are two varieties that I planted last year in my patch, and they'd actually did quite well. The Harley is a large green bell pepper, and it's actually great growing. Really grows in well under our hot Sydney weather. And the eggplant that I have growing is the Monaxa. So excuse the pronunciation, but again, it's a great producing eggplant variety, which kept going all the way until late autumn last season. So going to grow another round of these as well. Now that I've planted my seeds, what I'm going to do is, and I'll just bring this into the camera, I'm actually going to be using vermiculite to cover my seeds. I buy this in bulk. This is the coarse variety, and I find it works really well in helping with germination. It's quite a light material, and I find it doesn't strangle the seedlings as they're trying to germinate. So what I'm actually going to do is just cover the soil tray just lightly with it, making sure that the whole seed and the seed cell itself is covered, and make sure both are done, and that's it. This is essentially the amount. I don't actually give it any more water now. I just leave it as is, and then that will be fine. So that's my one round of eggplants and one round of capsicums planted out. So now that I've planted my seeds, these will go indoors. I've got a warm spot in my house where I put all my seeds in that I'm trying to germinate. As long as they're sheltered and generally inside the house, I find that I don't need to provide any additional heating. I find that the central heating in my house is sufficient to germinate these seeds. They will take about 12 to 18 days to germinate. I do find that with eggplant and capsicums, they take a lot longer than normal seeds. As long as you can keep that temperature at that 20 to 22 degree range, you'll find that they will germinate quite strong seedlings. I'll keep them inside and I'll give them a bit of water, and about 7 days in, just depending on how dry the soil gets. And then hopefully in 15 to 18 days they would have germinated and they'll be ready to start going outside into full sun. So that's spring season started for me. So I'm hoping that these seeds will all germinate and I'll have a great crop in 3 months time. So this afternoon, I'm just going to go through and harvest my interplanted Pak Choi that I planted in a previous video in between the kale and the spring onions at the front. They're about 4 weeks in now. They need to move on to give a bit more space to the kale that's trying to grow in the rows behind. So I'm going to come through, harvest a lot, clear the soil off the roots, give them a bit of a wash and then take them inside. So just as I'm harvesting the choy, I just want to show you the size that I like to harvest them at, and that's probably the size that I'm looking for. This one's probably just a tad bigger than I'd like, but that's fine. I'll just cut off the roots, give it a bit of a wash, and that will go in the fridge, and that will be perfect for steaming. There you go, just cleared the bed. So there's heaps of more space now in between the kale plants. I'm going to come through and just do a light weed just to make sure I clean out all those thread weeds that are just popping up in between. But this is my harvest. Yeah. Perfect. Just what I'm going to do now is just give them a quick wash just to get away the excess soil, let them dry off a bit, and then put them in the fridge. So that's my Pak Choi harvest now for this week. I will start up some new seedlings, and I do have some seedlings starting off at the moment. They'll be planted out in about 2 weeks time, interplanted in between other slow growing crops. So I go on and harvested all that choy, and now I've got plenty of space for the kale to grow in. What I'm going to do now is just give it a quick run with my wire weeder, just to knock out all those small weeds that seem to be growing in between the plants, just to get on top of them before they overtake the plot. Then I'm going to add a little bit of chicken manure pellets to each of the plants as their first round of fertilizer. And then hopefully in a couple of weeks I'll be harvesting my first leaves. I'll find as the weather gets warmer, it'll start to really steam along, and I'll start getting my first harvests of these plants. Yeah, just over at my chicken pen, just going to go through and make sure they've got enough food and water, and also just collect the eggs. So I'm just going to come through and just check that, just put a bit more of extra bedding in their nest box, and just feed them some kitchen scraps as well. So I'm just going to go do that now and see how many eggs I can collect this morning. Just filling up the pens with a bit of wood shavings, just to see if I can keep the eggs clean and stop the eggs from breaking. That should last me another week there. So. Okay, so the chickens are all sorted now. They've made a quick meal out of those leftovers. So now off to the next job.